How about now? Is there any audio?
Okay, you should be getting sound now. I'm not sure why that did not unmute, but I'll just take it from the top. Hi, welcome to the Swatches on live stream. I'm Clint, and this is Diana, and we're going to be reviewing your submitted portfolios. We are both illustrators as well as art directors, and so we'll be looking at it from the side of both being an art teacher and from the side of being directors in an industry, having our own studio. These portfolio reviews are completely free. They're open to the public. If you just happen to come by this video and you want to get yours reviewed, all you need to do is go to the swatchesdiscord.com Discord channel and put your link to your work in the video critique submissions channel. And we just review them as we receive them, and we usually review 5 or 6 at a time and try to give you just some solid feedback on how to improve the work, or if it's career planning or portfolio building, how to gear the images to the right clientele, setting goals, that sort of thing. Of course, we will be taking your questions live in the chat. If you have some, feel free to put those in. We'll try to keep an eye on that as we're going. We will be jumping into the reviews in just a minute. Do want to hit a couple of announcements. We do have some things ramping up right now. So form drawing course, this is a course that I teach. It is going to be launching on September 22nd. This is a foundational constructive drawing class. A lot of people who are self-studied or even have gone through art classes or maybe even college have a reasonable replication skills, or what we consider observational drawing skills. That is, you could look at a reference and you could replicate it reasonably accurately. But that is not the same as being able to draw something from imagination that has the same sort of volume that you would want from something you drew from real life. So that's what it goes into. We will be having some launch day details, specials, that sort of thing. We'll have you more details as it gets closer to that. We've been receiving several questions about the art challenge, kind of talk them through that, how that works, and what we're doing with that new challenge.
I just noticed there's a typo here. There's a D missing. It's Jin.
Oh, yeah.
We actually wanted to do this sooner, but we've just been super busy and haven't been able to run an art challenge. So this will actually launch December 1st. Tickets will go on sale on that day, and that's when the challenge starts. I'm mentioning this because we have gotten several questions about this over the past few months. There are people that are really interested in this topic. And Gin and Their Vessels will be a concept art challenge. Okay, so you're going to be asked to create some concepts, some designs, and then a final render on one of the designs. So these challenges tend to sell out really fast.
Yes.
I think in all the time that I've been a part of them, just the last 3 years or so, 3.5 years, they've always sold out without exception in the first 24 hours, sometimes in 12 hours. So if you want to participate in this, just set a reminder for yourself to pick up a ticket on that day because they will be gone fast. I think we're going to limit it to 12 participants. So I think we had fewer last time. So we're going to have a few more this time just in case people drop out.
Yeah.
Or, they're not able to complete the challenge. There'll be more artwork, more participants for you guys to see. And I think those tickets will be priced at $25 each.
Yeah, it should be.
Something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's what they're usually priced at. So just keep an eye out for that if you're interested in participating. Once the challenge is over, as we normally do, we'll put out all the briefs and the materials for the challenge on the Discord so that anyone can use them and do the challenge on their own if they want to.
Yeah. And we have a big event coming up in October. If you haven't already saw it right there, we are going to Lightbox Expo. That is Swatches Academy and Swatches Studio. We're going to be representing them at Lightbox. Neither of us have been to Lightbox before, so we're going to be going first time as exhibitors. Booth 1109, we actually learned this last week. And we will have a freebie bundle. We're putting together some exclusive content just for people who are going to visit us there at the booth. So if you have any plans on coming, make sure you come by the booth, and we'd love to set you up for some stuff.
Yeah,
thank you for coming by.
We're not selling anything. So it really is just about meeting with artists from the community, and we'll have some free material that you can take with you if you want to come by the booth and just learn more about what we do, as well as the freebie bundle that we're putting together for anyone that takes the time to come over to our booth. So we'd appreciate it if you're going to be there. Come and say hi to us and pick up the freebies.
Okay, if anybody has any questions along any of the stuff going on with the swatches, feel free to let us know as we go. And otherwise, we're going to shift gears and get into the artwork. First thing that I want to touch on is last time that we did reviews, we were talking about the green flags, red flags way of kind of reviewing the portfolios. And we had several comments of you guys saying that that was really helpful, beneficial. So we just cleaned it up. I just came back from my handwritten notes and actually typed it out in a cleaner approach.
So you can read it.
Yeah. And so we will also be using this as we go. As a quick overview of what you're looking at here and how we're kind of approaching this is when somebody submits their portfolio to a company, then what is that reviewer looking for? That art director usually.
I'm just going to offer a disclaimer because there's always some question about it. We are not saying that everybody does this 100% of the time, that every reviewer is just like us or every art director is just like us. We're basing this on our experience, on what we come across in our careers, and also knowing which candidates were accepted and rejected from other companies. So that's what we're basing this on. This is not a hard rule for every art director or recruiter that ever lived. This is just based on our experience. Okay, disclaimer over.
It does cover, I comfortably say this covers 90% plus of cases. So ideally what you want is a portfolio that is nothing but green flags. That means that at each step of the way, there is nothing in that category that raises a red flag. And if there is, then that's where the portfolio stops. You don't progress any more than that. So there are some qualifiers that are nice to see in a possible candidate, which is things like being a good personality, you work with people well together, you handle your time well, right? You hit deadlines. But that's all irrelevant, right, if you can't hit the quality criteria that they need. So some people really have some excellent, what you consider soft skills, but it is the hard skills, the technical ability to do the thing that holds them back. And that's always going to be the first thing that they look at. But we'll get into a little bit more as we go. And the caveat there as well is this is for people who are trying to get in the industry. And not everyone that submits a portfolio is trying to do that. And that's fine. But if you tell us, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, I'm trying to get into Blizzard, I'm trying to do this or that, then we're going to approach it in that way, in that regard, and hold you to that professional sort of direction. Okay, the first portfolio we're going to be looking at is Tony. We start off by taking a look at their question, and it is helpful, guys. If you submit your portfolio, give us some sort of frame, the sort of feedback that you're looking for, and also kind of what your goal is.
Yeah, that is super important. I just want to mention anyone, if you posted a portfolio and you didn't mention this, you can go back and edit it on Discord. It really helps us to know what you're trying to do. Which clients are you trying to attract, or are you trying to be, an independent artist? Like we just won't know from looking at some portfolios.
So Tony says, hello, I am here because you received the email. We do have a monthly email list. You can join that on the website. after applying, and would love to have some specific feedback on what my portfolio needs to improve in general, how to approach. Feedback is an important key to be able to improve. Absolutely is.
Like excellent attitude
Yes.
right off the bat.
Ready to learn to improve on what the sticking points are. Okay, we might pull up some of these in Photoshop. I'm going to start by just looking at the actual portfolio here. So this is ArtStation page. And we want to look at the overall portfolio before we get into any individual images and looking at the pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses, individual images. You want to look at them as a whole. Do they work together cohesively, style-wise, subject-wise, rendering-wise, right? And I'd say this actually is quite cohesive. I'll turn it this way. Get a little better view for you there.
Yeah, I'd say right first glance, Tony, I know. Oh, I have to step out for a minute. You continue. I'll be right back.
She's got some stuff in the oven, so we got to pull that out. Okay, so Tony, what we're seeing here is really good in regards to the style and subject range. It's easily within that sort of, I'm going to say, stylized mobile game character along over to Hearthstone. Of course, you got a Murloc from Hearthstone, and a very clear splash art League of Legends influence as well. And style-wise, these are close enough, okay? And that if you are skilled in this direction, then you can sidestep in between any of these subjects. There is none of these that are oddly different. Often what we'll see is somebody that has like a pencil drawing of a celebrity portrait along with this stuff, and that just doesn't fit. So this is looking good here. Now let's start flipping. Okay, well, before that, at this level, as I'm glancing at it, I can also tell it's not to the professional level that one would expect or want on some of these sort of properties. It's not massive things, but I can tell that there's not quite the right finish that I would expect to see for like League of Legends splash art or high-level Hearthstone art. But in order to figure out exactly what those things are, we have to get in a little closer. So as we're flipping through some of this, one of the things standing out to you, I was saying that style-wise, this is a pretty good place to be because you can shift between several large companies. There's a lot of properties that can use rendering in this sort of direction.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you mentioned it. What I was going to say before I had to rudely step out was that when I first glanced at your portfolio, it's very clear what you want to do, what your tastes are, your interests. It's really consistent. That's really good. You're not doing like one of each, one of everything. You have a really clear focus. That's really good. And it's League, right? And it's Hearthstone. That's what it looks like to me, first glance, right? Maybe you have other interests. This looks a little bit more kind of mobile
I
style.
think it's for a mobile game.
Which is fine. It's close enough to these things where it fits. It doesn't look like the odd man out. But I don't know if you mentioned this, Clint, but when you do that, when you have a portfolio that says Hearthstone League, you're putting yourself in that bracket right away. And so when I look at it, I'm going to compare you to those people, those official arts in my mind instantly. And I some people may not be familiar, but I'm pretty familiar with some of these pieces.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to notice right away the differences, right? So you were talking about those differences.
Yeah, so, especially when you're doing splash art, a lot of people have spent a reasonable amount of time studying splash art, really kind of analyzing it and trying to learn from it. And we know what the original looks like, and this isn't hitting it. It's not hitting the same level.
It's close.
Yeah, it is.
It's really
closer than it is further away. All right, so.
And you're closer than most people that try to do this.
But when you try to go so similar to the original and not meet it, all it does is serves to make yours feel less, right? It is kind of like, in my mind, it's trying to sing a really popular song karaoke style that's like, you didn't really hit the note. I saw that you got close, but so in that case, I would recommend not trying to do such a close kind of one-to-one.
Well, it depends, okay? I think if this is your goal, like you want to do splash art for, then you got to keep doing this. Like there's no way around it. But you're going to have to be like hypercritical. And if you don't believe me, go on Twitch, go to Wild Blues Twitch channel. Maybe those videos, they had some videos on there from like 3 years ago that they didn't remove. They might still be there. And you can see their AD and their CEO showing what they consider to be a mid splash art. And it's pretty stinking high quality to me. So that's the that's what you're up against when you're throwing your hat in the ring for this property. They're gonna really judge you on every single little thing.
Okay, in order to keep it moving, Tony, when you're keeping the scale and the complexity of the images on the smaller side, and by that I mean like one character, reasonable, non-obstructive background, even this
one's very good.
The quality is higher. It's more sellable, right? It's when you start stepping up to doing these multi-figure scenes with multiple light sources, this is where it's really taking a dip in quality, and you're not at the point where you can really sell the complexity of this scene and the subtleties it needs in order to make this work. And this primarily deals with the values and the lighting. It's just getting murky. It's getting confusing what I'm looking at in some places.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what this is. A hand, I think, is meant to be a hand, but see, it's unclear. I can't tell what's going on over here at all. I'm not quite sure what this is either.
I not really know where they are. Everything just kind of goes to this gray, blue, purple. So excellent practice, but I actually feel like your portfolio would overall feel higher quality if you stuck to just having some of these in it.
Yeah, I feel like if your goal, Tony, is to get in, like to one of these official properties as soon as possible, your chances are probably better with these like Hearthstone. I would leave Riot on the back burner for now. This is very advanced. Yeah, and they're going to be hypercritical with everything, especially the faces. So I think you're closer with the Hearthstone style, one character standing there looking cool or doing something cool. And if you just focus maybe on this area, it depends. If your goal is to get in, to either one of these as fast as possible, that's what I would do. But if your goal is like Riot or nothing, then you got to keep on working on these.
But even for that, for Tony, for anybody else who has a similar goal artwork, I do recommend, even if Riot's like the goal, I really want to get to Riot, then go get other clients first.
Yeah.
You want to have that experience. And I tell you what, they want to see that you have industry experience before bringing you on too.
It's also just for everyone, when you're at the beginning, you're trying to get into some of these big properties, just stacking up wins is good.
Yes.
It's good for your morale and your confidence, just stacking up clients, getting a few smaller wins on the way to the big one. So, if you're I knew a student once he only wanted to work for a certain studio, I forget which one now. And so he was turning down other work because he only wanted to work for that client. And it really started to grind on him year after year when he couldn't get into that client and he wasn't getting any little victories.
What people often miss is that no matter how much self-study you do, there are some lessons you only learn by doing the actual project for a client. being under those conditions, those constraints, those deadlines, trying to meet somebody else's vision,
An
right?
expectation.
You cannot fully replicate that in a self-study or even classroom environment, although classroom gets closer.
One thing also I want to mention to you, Tony, I don't know if you're doing this already with these pieces, but I would practice, because it's an important part of the job, I would practice doing a brief that you did not create. Someone else creates a brief for you. And we have some of those in our kit for Hearthstone, maybe
Yes.
Warcraft. So you can, if you have our kit, you can go into the illustration briefs and look for the Hearthstone ones. It's super important to do a piece where you don't have control of the brief, because that's what the job is all about. And so people are practicing on personal pieces where they can just do whatever they want and change anything they want, and they think that that's the same experience as the job, and it's not, and it makes a difference in how you problem solve and how you deal with stress and how you perform. Yeah, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that well, but
Yeah. I don't remember if I put. No, I thought I put some pictures in there. Anyway, so let's touch on a few more things. We've got to keep going. One is this, Tony, 100% exactly what you need to be doing. Times this by 5 on every piece.
spend more time on this stage. It makes a huge difference.
Go look at League of Legends splash art sketches, the black and white sketches that they do.
And the Runeterra ones.
No, it's under Runeterra. That's actually it.
Yeah, the Runeterra ones are very good.
I've got some saved. I was thinking League of Legends, but
I think you're thinking of these.
Yeah, so Runeterra. This is where the strength of a lot of splash art is, where they establish the values, value blocking,
composition.
Okay. Now, how exactly they do it, their rendering style, it differs from artist to artist, but like this isn't the same exact approach, but this is where it's at. Right now, this is what's kind of catching you with those multi-figure scenes, is that we didn't have enough time in here figuring out how the values are all going to separate from each other. And so we're getting kind of murky scenes where everything's sitting in the same value range.
It becomes a lot harder to resolve all those problems while you're rendering all the characters and doing anatomy and this and that. So it's easier at a lower resolution version of the image to problem solve those things.
So going forwards, focus on the Hearthstone if you're trying to get work quicker, because you're closer to that. Keep Riot as a big goal. Be working on this. This is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, time-wise, for improving those sorts of scenes. And then something else we're going to do in the stream here with several artists is do comparison. And any one of you can do this. We do this on our own work. I've done this for years and years and years, and it is incredibly helpful. So what you want to do is get your own piece, put it in the middle. This is Tony's piece right here. These are other Hearthstone pieces that have some similarity, some subject matter, coloring, lighting, similarity to the original. And we look at what are they doing versus what is the source art. And don't just look for, okay, well, it's better. Okay, that's too generic. We got to be specific about the actual image criteria. And if it helps, like literally make a list. Like, okay, what are they doing with the colors? What are they doing with the posing? How are they handling the material rendering? How are they handling the rendering of the magics? Like whatever is in that scene, the list will change a little bit. So here, we've got one that has some similar magic and similar color scheme. This one, the face, the character itself is maybe a little closer
Similar
to her.
subject.
So what are you seeing? This was your piece. You're looking at the other two. You're thinking, I want to plus mine up. I want to be able to get from here to there, here to there. What are the differences that you would need to implement?
biggest thing that jumps out to me is that pose. It just feels like it's pushed too much into kind of an unrealistic
amount of twist.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're getting some materials where they actually don't go too far in your source images, but we're getting materials here that don't look like the materials they're supposed to be, like this fabric. So things like that, we're getting some form drawing kind of problems where things are not symmetrically placed. So you can compare to the two, and it really stands out. You see, now there are a lot of similarities. I think the color, the backlighting is very similar. I think that's done correctly. Other things are a matter of taste, and also, again, of the brief you're using. The magic, I think it gets a bit muddy here with the hands, where you don't see that happening with these. There's a clear separation of color and value with the hands, and here we're getting a lot of overlap. That would be something I would try to resolve. So there are a couple areas, mainly for me, the pose, the twist that's just going too far, some of the form drawing placement of these things are not where they should be, and maybe rethinking the magic effect and the interaction with the hands. So when you hear us say this stuff, it might sound like we're being picky, like we're picking on him. But all those little things at this stage, like, this is good. This is not, what Tony did is not bad. It's not a bad painting.
No, it's quite solid. It really is.
There's lots of great stuff happening. The way he handled these metals is good, the overall color scheme is good. There's lots of good things happening. But when you're getting to this stage saying, I want to do official art for these properties, they're going to compare you to these, and they're going to note all the differences mentally. And so what you need to do is you need to anticipate that. What are they going to pick on? And you need to fix that before you show it to them. And this is what we do with our pieces too. It's like, what are they going to complain about? What are they going to notice? What are the errors? And don't deceive yourself by thinking they won't notice things that you notice. They will notice things that you notice, and even more things.
Assume that they are going to be more critical of your art than you are.
Yeah. That's a mistake a lot of people make.
Yeah. All the time, people are like, well, I know that's kind of off, but they might not notice. No, assume that they not only notice that, but they notice even more. And so you need to try to fix and address as many things as possible.
Yeah. So that's something I would just get in the habit of doing, is self-critiquing. You don't want to do it so much that you kind of cripple yourself and you say, oh, everything's wrong, I'm not going to do everything. No, but when you do notice something, just try to address it as best you can. Once you've maxed out what you can do, then you move on.
Okay, talking about moving on, I feel like we've got, Tony, some good feedback there. Hopefully that's helpful to you. And, as you're continuing to work, if you're wanting some community feedback on your work, everyone's welcome to post their work in the Swatches Discord.
I think there are a couple of official Hearthstone artists in our Discord that post their regularly or every now and then, so you might even get feedback from one of those artists if you post and ask for it.
If anyone is wanting to go the stylized route with their art, doing things like League of Legends, doing Hearthstone, similar, maybe Genshin Impact, I think was like a similar game for mobile, then check out the Intro to Stylization class on the website. Guillermo teaches that, and he is a prolific Hearthstone artist, really good. And he takes you through how to do stylization correctly that doesn't make things look like they're drawn wrong, which is sometimes what you see. So the Intro to Stylization, make sure you take a look at that if you're trying to go that direction.
Also, I just want to mention, if anyone is fluent in Portuguese, then Guilherme has a lot of content in Portuguese. So he only has the one course in English, I think, that I'm aware of with us, but he's got his own content. So if you really want to go deeper, he may have some more material on some of these topics. I'm not sure. It's worth looking into.
The next portfolio is by Moon, who had no comments, so we will just take a look at the work and go from there.
So if anyone in the chat, if we're looking over your portfolio, let us know. And if you have any questions, you can post them while we're looking at it here.
Okay, well, looking at this, it is a site that you built, all right, and well, I think ArtStation is perfectly acceptable. This is okay. Like
I just want
see
to
all
say,
the work.
yeah, no, this is totally acceptable. You've done a good thing by putting everything on the front page.
Yeah.
Where it's easy to see all your work. So that's good. Good presentation. Now,
as I'm glancing over it, again, we want to look at the work as a whole, the collection. What does it say as a collection? And a couple of things are coming across. The main thing that I'm getting right now is that Moon, I assume it's her, Layla, I think, that you are still in the experimentation phase. And there's nothing wrong with that. Every artist is at that point.
We all go through that.
A whole batch of it. And what I mean by that is you are still figuring out where your interests lie before you start focusing, if you want to focus in a particular direction in a serious sort of professional direction, then you try a lot of different styles, you try a lot of different subjects, and that's what I'm getting here. And that's fine. As long as you understand that's what you're doing and it's fine for hobbyists, right? The moment that you want to start taking this in a more serious professional manner, that's going to start working against you as a portfolio, because clients are going to want to see a consistent, consistency as far as style, rendering, and subject matter. If they feel like you're kind of all over the place, it makes them feel less secure in choosing you to do something, or they just don't really know what it is that you're offering. So we were talking to Fred Rambeau a while back. There's an interview on the channel, and that's one of the things that he said. He's a concept artist, worked on Assassin's Creed, Gotham Knights, a variety of things. And he said, get good at one thing first. Really get good at that so that you're consistently getting projects on that subject, be it character design or animal illustrations or what have you.
Creatures.
Right. And then after that, you start adding in more well-rounded subject matter. Okay. After that, then, I think we have to start talking about like the actual skills on display, or where does your mind go from there?
Well, just first glance, right? My first glance of this portfolio is I'm not sure who it's for.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something I always ask when I look at a portfolio, when someone submits a portfolio to us, to the studio, or when I was at Sin Studio, we saw many hundreds of portfolios also. When someone submits their portfolio, first question is, okay, what are they trying to do here? Who is this for? What is this aimed at? How does this fit into the industry? And the second question is, what are the technical skills I'm seeing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first question, the answer is, I don't know. I don't know who you're aiming at with this woman with an umbrella for a head, right? I am not sure where this would be used, in what area of the industry. You're not making that clear, where this would fit in, which clients this would appeal to. That is one of the things that kind of gives this student hobbyist vibe.
Yes.
Is that it's not really targeted. It looks like you haven't given thought to who you're aiming at or where you want your art to be used and what you want it to be used for. The second issue is the technical skills. And we are seeing across all the images issues in the fundamentals. So we're seeing consistent problems with form rendering across all the images. We're seeing anatomy issues. We're seeing value problems, materials problems, okay? And I'm not even talking about more advanced things like narrative or composition. Just the foundational stuff. There's multiple issues in every image. that is when we're talking about the green flags, red flags. That's something that's that's something that's going to discount you right at the beginning, right there. So if you're applying for work somewhere, the review process is going to stop right there. They're not going to go through these flags anymore. The portfolio, they'll stop looking at it at that stage. I'm sorry, I have to step out. Continue, please.
So at this stage, if it is clear that there are foundational errors particularly from a thumbnail view, then that's where the review is going to stop. We're not going to move forwards with looking at anything else or really considering it. So if that's the case with your portfolio, then you want to hit pause on the building of the portfolio and the pursuit of work, because really it's going to be an exercise in futility, right? It's just not going to be worth it. Instead, you want to use your time to train the foundational skills. Now we're talking about foundational errors. That is covering observational, informed, or constructive drawing. That is including perspective. We're also including anatomy, shading, and values. We're not really talking about design. We're not talking even so much about composition or lighting. We're just saying those things. Those are what we consider foundational topics. And we want to get those errors consistently down to 0 in the work so that we can go get a green flag at that stage and then move down. And then after that, the next thing that you would be looking at is the image selection. Is it a cohesive set of images, subject matter wise, or is it kind of random? And like you were just saying, that right now it does feel kind of random, which to review us as student.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being at this stage that you're at. Everybody goes through it, okay?
I've got those in a folder, right?
We don't show them to anyone. It's like Michelangelo, right? He burned all his bad drawings so that no one would ever know they existed, so he never had any. No, but this is a normal stage that every artist, illustrator goes through, okay? Now that you're here, you have to think about a few things, which is... do you really want this to be your profession? If you want this to be a profession that makes money, we have to strategize.
Yeah.
So we have to think about, where am I going to get this money? Which am I going to do this by getting hired by clients, game companies, publishers? Who? Am I going to be an independent artist? Am I going to make my own game content? Whatever it is, you have to think about how you're going to monetize your art if you're making this your career.
Yes.
And there's people who are probably thinking, well, why is it all about money? We hear these from times. It's not all about money. You don't have to make money off your art. But that means you're a hobbyist, right? Like, it's not a profession. You do it on the side. You do it for pleasure, for enjoyment. It's totally valid, and that's fine. You don't have to think about appealing to anyone. But if you're trying to make it your source of income, your profession, then you do have to think about, where am I going to get money for this? Who's going to pay me to do this? And what kind of images are they going to pay me for? So you have to start there. What do I like to do? It's the Venn diagram. What do I like to do? What does the industry need? What will the industry pay for? And I have to find an intersection there. So it looks like you like to do scenes. I see some horror stuff. Just know that the horror stuff is niche.
There's less work in it compared to some other subjects.
And you'll have to go a lot more horrific if you want to appeal to that crowd. But it looks like you're more in the illustration, maybe dark fantasy or something, cyberpunk, perhaps. And that's fine. You have to... if you want to make this your job, you have to pick kind of a lane and stay there for a bit, get really good, and work on your foundational stuff. And we say this to a lot of people, like, scale down the complexity to begin with, okay? Instead of doing a mechanical dragon with this guy, maybe let's just have the guy. Just the guy, the character standing there.
Yeah, may not even put the background in there. Could just be dark gray or black or something.
And the reason we say you got to know who your client is going to be, where you're trying to get that money from, so that you can see who are they hiring, what are their expectations, where's the standard, the bar for them in terms of quality, because you have to match that. They're not going to pay for less when they can get better. So these are the main things, and all of us have to think about that in our career if we want to make this a source of income, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me wrap up with a couple of just art tips from Moon. If you're wanting to improve your skills, whether just for yourself or career-oriented, then what we're seeing is issues with form rendering. That is the accuracy in which you are painting the form with lighting and shading to make it feel realistically dimensional. Now, we're not talking about it needs to look like a photograph, but the forms do need to be lit consistent by whatever style that you're doing. Right now, there is a fair amount of inconsistencies with the lighting, which way the light's coming, how strong it is, the contrast levels between things. And this is a very common thing when the artist is making up too much of the information in the scene. So in a lot of these, I think you have very little references for major or significant elements in the scene. It's fine that you don't have references for some things that are minor, that you could just extrapolate what they look like. But for major things, you always want to have a reference. And right now you're guessing too much. If you were my mentee, I would say we're going to be doing at least 50% of the stuff you can reference against the real world. Some kind of photo reference. Because you can't improve your painting by doing imaginative work. That is, if you are painting something that can't be referenced, you're not going to improve, because the only way that you can improve is that you can check where you're off against something.
Yeah, you need more input from the real world, because if you're just using your own intuition and your own memory and knowledge, it's a closed loop, and there's no new information coming in. You're just going to keep making the same mistakes. So that's why we say, scale down complexity, reference more, and build from there.
So I'm going to just bring this up. We're going to look at this for 1 minute, and then we're going to probably have to move on. So here's the work of Moons on the side here. Here's some other work for various other artists, Brad Rigney and
that's Donato.
Donato, yeah. I don't remember who did this one. But for this example, what I want to highlight is the value control. So the values is the light and dark elements of the scene. And if you switch this to black and white, you'll see how a lot of these become almost illegible. It just has no separation between character and background. There's no setup of planes of the image. And that's because every value of light to dark is allowed to be on every plane of the image.
So we're saying like the same lights and darks that are on her are everywhere else in the image. Same thing here, same thing here. And when you have that, you can't really clearly separate things out because you're using the same range of values all over the image.
Now here is where you can see the other ones still work. Now they get more punch for having color in them, but I have no problem registering the image and all the details in it just in black and white. So this is what would be referred to as your value scheme of the image. And that's separating major areas from other major areas. And what we talk about in our courses as value pairs. I'll just explain the concept, and that'll be as far as we go. And the value pair is if you have two objects on different planes, so like her and the background, that's a pair. There's a value here and there's a value here. Then you want those values to be different and decidedly different, like light and dark, not medium against medium. Now, this is okay because they're right by each other, so they can have similar values since she's kind of like up against it.
It's okay to have a lost edge here and
Yeah.
there, but it's
Not
not
for the
all
major
the
area.
way, and it's not for the major silhouette areas.
Yep.
So you got to be careful.
So the focal points have nice separation, and as a whole, you can pick her out. As a whole, you can pick this out.
That one's much clearer. This one too.
Yep. Even here, you notice it was not accident that there is a light atmosphere back there. It's not an accident that there is an edge light there that breaks up the same value on either side. Right? We're getting this all over the place. It's dark against a lighter shirt here.
It's on purpose.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just over and over. That's one of the things as you get into looking at values and shading that you can implement that's immediately going to raise up the quality of the work. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have Lucy. We know Lucy. Lucy's been in some courses with us.
Before we go to Lucy, I just want to thank everybody for submitting their work. And I know, it might sound like a lot of this is hard to hear, and we're just trying to be as clear, concise, and helpful as we can. So, Moon, Tony, everybody, we really appreciate you sharing your work with us, putting yourself out there, and we hope that you just take this as encouragement and direction to help you, and that's what we're trying to do. Anyway, continue.
Okay.
Just wanted to point that out. It's hard for people.
It is.
Yeah.
And we do recognize that. I think every artist has either experienced or heard horror stories of bad reviews where people were made to feel like crap.
Yeah, of course. That's terrible. We don't want to be
that.
We don't want to give the impression that's we're just being critical for the sake of being critical. It is constructive criticism.
Lucy's been through some of our courses and don't have a portfolio review, just wanted feedback I think on this one. Struggling in my way into the scene illustration. Okay, so stepping up into doing scenes from just kind of standalone characters. Or explore and his young apprentice walk through the deadly dungeon in pursuit of forbidden knowledge. Yeah, it's a good subject. Yeah, okay. Apart from overall feedback, I'd love to get some advice on how to push my painting closer to MTG style. I have a feeling that now it's somewhat cartoonish, but can't quite address why. So I pulled up some other images that have various points that we could draw from. But right now, let's start by just looking at this and kind of doing a rundown of it. We're not going to do like a proper paint over. We don't have time, but we can talk through it as if it was one of ours and what we would do to improve it. Okay, right off the bat, Lucy, I like the overall scene that we chose.
Lots of good things in this scene.
Yeah. I feel like there's a good amount of character design to the fella. There's good separation of the background. The color scheme has been controlled. Like you're just shifting this all into this honest monochrome sort of green tone.
I have done this myself.
Yeah.
It works.
Works just fine. You're right, though. There is opportunity to push this further.
I think I just want to point out one thing: the cartooniness. Lucy was saying it looks cartoony, and I don't know why. It just occurred to me. I was thinking about it, and I think it might actually be the proportions in the face. If you can zoom out here a little bit. If we just compare the faces to some of the other faces, they feel a little bit more realistic, and these are going maybe more in a cartoony direction, because I don't think the rest is very cartoony. I think it's really the faces that are doing that, giving it that look a little bit. So it might be worth you pushing the faces in a more realistic direction, proportion-wise, with the size of the eyes and everything, to make them look less cartoony. Anyway, that was just an aside. I was thinking about that because that was mentioned.
Now, the place that you're at, Lucy, with this one is a place that we arrive at with every piece we illustrate and every piece that our studio does before we send it in, which is it's setting in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
It's checking all the boxes of what needs to be there. How do we get more out of it?
10%.
10%.
Everything we can.
So that's how I want you to approach it, is go through each aspect of the image and think about how do I get 10% more out of it? Because if you say, how do I make it twice as good? You can't do that. If you could do that already, you would have already done it. But 10% is within the ability of most artists if you just take a couple of minutes to compare, to analyze, to think. You can do that. You can eke out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean is, you look at like the posing. Can I get a little bit more out of the posing? Can I get more out of the character design? Can I get more out of the environment?
Mm-hmm.
Can I get more out of the lighting? How can I get a little more out of that? The
Can
values.
I get more out of the set dressing? As a
yeah,
classic.
set dressing.
We do that a lot at the studio.
And then it will differ depending on the image, right? And what all those criteria will be. But that is how you want to approach pushing it at this stage. So you're talking about how do I get to MTG? Now, MTG, Magic the Gathering, is a physically printed tabletop game, card game. Because of that, you will want to boost your values because printed things have less value range than your screen does because your screen can actually emit light. And a lot of this is going to print really flat because the values are so...
The printers are not as good as getting all the little value shifts and nuance, so it's just going to make it look like the same value.
You know what? Let me use...
Now, I know there are artists out there that do like really dark magic cards and this and that, but I mean, that's a choice, and they sometimes, you know, you may or may not get called out by your art director on it. But for us, from our point of view and like our quality goals, we always want to try to have our printed pieces look good in print. Like we always think of that and how to get more value range so that they don't flatten out. Because we've seen it where you open up a book and you see some images and they're just flat.
Yep.
And that could have been prevented at this stage, right?
So like that right there would take it from being a really murky print to something that's going to pop and show up. And really you want to, because otherwise you're not getting this, you're not getting the payoff for all the detail work that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Now another thing is making sure that you have plenty of light on the faces, even if it's not realistic. So we just use a normal value levels adjustment here. And you look, that guy, you wouldn't really be able to read his expression very well. Pop some light on it. Now I'm connecting to him. I've got enough light. That's one of the reasons I pulled this one up here, is you look at this satyr character, and yeah, he's backlit, and that's like the main light, right? But he has a spotlight basically on
his face.
Yeah, the head and shoulders gets a spotlight so we can really register what that expression is and who this character is. Now, where is that light coming from? Is somebody off camera like shining a light on his face?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, because you're controlling the scene. Same thing here, right? We designed a light to fall right over the side of the face and down the body. So that would be helpful there. Another thing to keep in mind if you're doing the person carrying a torchlight thing is you don't need to be literal about where the light would fall if it's not conducive.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like it would be better if more of the face was actually getting this light, because it would help us see him better and help him stand out, even if the exact angle isn't perfectly aligned with where the light source really is.
Could even do the same with that light on his bridge of his nose, on the top of the glasses.
Yeah, so same thing here, which is using this bright kind of cyan light, running it here, running it like on the top of the glasses, and getting a little more payoff. And we're telling more form information with that light and helping us again to read the expressions and stuff. Okay, so that's how you can get a little bit more out of the light and just controlling the values. What's some other aspects? Where would you push things with them?
Yeah, I think we were looking at this earlier and noted that we're not getting as much perspective, barreling of the body as we should. So be careful with this, Lucy. It's a really easy thing to do. I've done it before, which is when we put the costume on the character, we just go too flat.
So we ran a center line down. We're following the center there, and then running it to the middle of the belt buckle. And what we get is a body that feels very flat and a character that looks like he ought to be very barrel-chested. Mm-hmm. And we're also getting that here where this is just kind of coming straight back, if not actually bending inwards to the solar plexus area. This could be addressed actually fairly easily with like a warp. I will do a really rough job of it here. So let me copy and paste that. And then we want to barrel his chest out. Let his body turn a little more.
That might mean you need to bring some of that in. But
yeah, you might need to.
I don't know if that's a bag or what, but.
Yeah, that is also a spot where it would be worth having some value separation. Even if he has a bag there, let's add some, potentially even some light that's getting around that so that we can have a little separation in that area. So we've got that. That's fun.
And another thing we were thinking of is, okay, question, how to get 10% more out of the environment. How to get 10% more of the set dressing, okay? If this was our piece, we would consider adding some irregularity up here because it's very, very regular, right? And it kind of draws your eye into just how symmetrical and regular it is. So something I would do would be like, you could do several things. Like I think in my dungeon piece, I had like chains going, you know, in different ways, but you could have like ivy.
Yeah.
You could have foliage.
Yeah, because we see moss and stuff hanging down. So use some of that natural things like vines and moss and to break up those shapes, because
like that.
Compositionally you have a target pattern with the hallway, the doorway, the inner doorway, and it's focusing your attention right back there. The only way that really works is if you have like a pair of eyes back here, right? And
or a bunch of eyes.
Yeah, something's watching them, right? That's the payoff for having this pattern. But if you're not, then yeah, fully agree. And you might even go with like, you know, you've got some. Yeah. You could even have like some lights hitting some of them, right? And they're kind of hanging down. You're backlighting them a little bit, getting a little glow off of some of those, and that will just help keep people visually from sort of drifting into the back. Yeah.
Another thing is we're talking 10% out of the set dressing. What could we do? I noted here that we have some guys, some skellies here, which are cool. I like those. But I feel like they are way too low res for where they are. I mean, they're almost on the same plane with these guys. Now, I know we don't want them necessarily to compete, but I feel like you could have a bigger value range, more darks in here, and maybe a little bit more light on them because they are right here. And so you kind of can't get away with just the same
Yeah.
resolution that you have back here. This one's far away, that's fine. But this one's not far away, so it just ends up looking blurry. I would give it a little bit more resolution. Same thing, maybe a little bit more contrast in this area and in here, right? Because it's closer and it's closer to the light and it's closer to us. So this is kind of, these are what we're talking about of examples of how to get 10% more of the lighting. You already put the light here, just let it do a little bit more. You've already got this here, just let it have more value range because it's closer to us, more resolution. You already got this background suggestion of stuff coming from the top, just let it be more obvious, do, a little bit more. So that's kind of what we're talking about. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, let me throw off a few other notes and we'll move on. One is, I'm not going to redraw it, but this hand does catch me. Like if somebody in my studio did this, I would have them to change it. Where we've got all the knuckles in a straight line and it just doesn't work that way. Your knuckles don't go in straight lines, they're curved. And if it was just some hand off in the corner, maybe I wouldn't care, but it's like right in the middle. You're going to look at it and it's going to be in fairly high detail. Okay, the next thing is trying to pay off what you said in your brief, and also the context of this scene is actually more D&D than it is Magic. I'm gonna just say that it definitely feels more like something you'd have in Pathfinder or D&D, which is fine. They at this point they practically use the same. They literally use the same artist. They have practically the same look. Yeah. And you said danger. Okay, I'm not really getting that. Visually, we have to express that.
I'm getting more exploration or adventure, but not danger.
So, if we're going to have this, what do you do to say more danger to the skeleton? How was it killed?
Got an arrow in the eye socket.
Yeah, we want to see...
Hatchet in the head.
We want to see half of the skull caved in, right? We want to see this broken edge and the skull is...
Can we have some spiders crawling out, or maybe snakes?
Yeah, have a snake like wrapping through the skeleton, right? And it's like turning to look at this guy. That's a little dangerous. That's
cool. Could have snakes hanging from the,
Yeah.
If you wanted to go with that theme.
You could have some sort of booby trap that hit this guy. Maybe you see like some thing with like spikes sticking off of it, like impaling this guy or something. That would be a way to push it up a bit. Another way is, let's say that this isn't a ceiling. Say that this just goes up. Okay. Well, maybe we could... This is how they came in, right? There's a ladder, right? And now we have a sense of how they came down the ladder into this sort of pit, and we're here, and maybe they had to bust in. So now we can show a pile of rubble where they broke the rocks and stuff to get into the chamber.
This is what, when we say storytelling, that's what we're talking about. It's not telling a super complex narrative, but just like the immediate story of what's going on. And this is another way when we're talking about how do we get 10% more out of the narrative. It's this. How do we get 10% more out of set dressing? It's this. 10% more of mood, adding the dangerous elements, right? So hopefully this is, something that you can think about, that inspires you. I'm telling you, like, this does not come natural to me. I have to force myself to think about all these things before I call a piece done. And Clint had a lot to do with that. He taught me a lot about this. So I really believe in it. I feel like it really improves a lot of pieces. And it's a good thing for you to start thinking about on all your pieces if you can.
Yep. Okay, I do see some questions. Let me take a look at these before we go on. Hey, Octavius, I'm building towards a junior level work with trading card clients like Flesh and Blood. Yep. Currently focused on props and portraits. I had a few portfolio questions. Should I focus only on finished illustrations that feel like a card deliverable, like MTG artifact illustrations, or just standalone prop illustrations that showcase design and rendering.
Well, if you're targeting trading card clients, then they'll probably want to see a full card deliverable, like a full painting.
No, only try to sell a portfolio of things that are at adequate quality. Don't just spread the subject matter and offer more subjects because you think the subject is of interest to them if the quality isn't there. So if you can do prop illustrations to a professional level, then do that. But if you can do that and equal the same quality with portraits, then do that. But scale up the complexity as you gain experience and skill.
It just depends on if they're at the same level with each other. Some ADs like to see design sketches, like, basically like your composition drawings, because they want to know what to expect from you when they ask you for those. That is the first step of any card art assignment, is usually clients want to see a sketch or a series of sketches. So it would be, a lot of them like to see that in your posts if you're putting it on your portfolio. You lead with your finished image, and then you can show like 3 or 4 sketches, however many you did, of different comps, and they'll know what to kind of expect from you at that stage. Yeah.
Do ADs value scene design? Yep. Is it desirable to include portraits in a portfolio for junior level work? Or do I treat them as a skill building studies? No, that's a valid subject to put in a junior portfolio.
That's not the issue. It's just the quality. So I just want to let everybody know, when you're putting together your portfolio in the beginning, only put in the portfolio pieces. Don't put studies in there. They don't help at all. They help nothing, zero, and they actually hurt sometimes. So only put in your portfolio the pieces you want clients to see that are of interest to the client, that are at the best possible quality level that you have. If you want to have another page or your social media to share your sketches, your doodles, that sort of your studies, that's totally fine. But for the portfolio you send clients, you want it to just be your portfolio pieces. And that's not the same as every doodle you sit down and make. It doesn't count. Don't be deceived by looking at pros' art stations and seeing all their doodles and thinking, oh, that's what I should emulate. They're doing that because they don't have anyone to impress anymore. They already built their careers. They already have their network, their clients. They can post whatever they want on their art station and no one's going to care. But if you're new and you're introducing yourself to a client, every piece they see is going to count and they're going to judge you on it. So hope that's helpful.
Okay, the next one is Michael. And he said, I have a website. I've been attending Visual Arts Passage with John English. Actually love it. Okay. My work goes in a different direction versus the usual standard style in the industry, but I'd still like whatever help you can offer. Okay, let's grab
Michael's portfolio. Okay. So start off with the good things. You got it again laid out really easily on your landing page. These categories are nice. They're really obvious. And it's easy to navigate your page, so that's good. I can also tell that you have this sort of kind of line arty pencil style. I don't know how to describe it, if that's an accurate way to describe it, but that's how I perceive it. And that we have kind of a recurring theme of the subject centered with kind of a minimal background. In this style. So you're looking for feedback, any feedback we can offer. You didn't make it clear to us what your goals were, so we don't know. We're just gonna guess. And I'm not gonna click on this because I don't know how much you want us to show on stream, but I went to your About page just to try and learn more about what it is.
Yeah, hoping to know what your goal was.
Yeah, so we could actually give you some valuable feedback or information. And it looks like you are marketing yourself as a trading card game artist, as a cover artist, and as I think you mentioned a game art artist. Okay, so if that's the goal, I'm going to say to you the same thing that we said to Moon, which is right now for where you are, the first thing that you need to do is really decide on how you want to monetize your art. Who are the clients that you want to work with, that you feel you would enjoy working with, that are maybe close to your style? Right now, I can't tell who this is for. I don't know which clients you're targeting. I don't know which games that you're trying to work with. I can't see it from the work. So I feel like you haven't really settled on a target. To me, it looks like someone who is doing personal art for pleasure.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like you're really trying to get into the industry. You acknowledge in your comment that you recognize that it's not typical of the industry. So again, what we say to people is when you see that, you just realize that you're separating yourself from the market.
Yeah.
You know what the market is
You're
doing.
getting a difficult task and making it more difficult by not giving them what they usually want.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. On a technical level, I mean, I'll tell you right now, Michael, this stuff is really on the side of the simple. It's very, very simplistic. There's not a whole lot of technical difficulty in these pieces. And again, that's a hard sell, right? People pay money for the hard stuff. So right now, with where your skills are at and this type of subject, I think like maybe the best fit for you, from my point of view, is like kidlit, like children's books. I've seen this style before in children's books, and more common than in card art or game art. So
yeah, I don't know what game this sort of approach has. Whatever it is, like, you don't have to paint like me. You don't have to paint like Dinah, right? There's several styles, such as you'd say kind of the D&D MTG style. Like, we were looking at the Hearthstone Riot style, if you want to group those into a massive group, that are very popular. They fit a lot of clients. You don't have to do one of those, but whatever it is you do has to be really freaking good at whatever that is. Okay, and it can be different, but you have to be really good at whatever that is. Not only to the point where it can offset the fact that it's different than what the clients normally want. And I look at this, and this strikes me as being student work. It looks like an art student who's been doing some doodles of their favorite subjects, inspired maybe by their favorite games or books that they read, that sort of thing. And you've got to, I'm going to say this, I don't know you, I don't know your art, I don't really know your training. So I'm going to put it out there. You can decide for you whether this is true or not, because you have all the information. What we commonly see is people who don't do the usual thing, and they say, that's my style. But it's really as a means to not have to study all the fundamental stuff. They don't want to go to the 3 to 5 years of training to learn the fundamentals, so they make a stylistic choice to do something different. Now, even if you do something different, you still have to learn those things, and you have to be really good at it. So I pulled this together. It's like, here's your piece. Now, you probably don't want to go in any one of these other directions.
we're not suggesting that you should.
I'm not saying that you should, right? But all of these are non-standard for the illustration community. There's more direction here, because I think this was related to some Final Fantasy concept art. But like this, there's actually a fair connection between like this and this. They're both line art, exaggerated shapes, kind of dynamic points, and kind of a graphic read to it. But this is like the same thing that you're doing at that professional level.
It's really dialing into the exaggeration.
Yep.
And the technique is very, very clean. And it's leaning into the graphical read. Like,
Yep.
It's going to be graphical. It's going to be
Well, that's
hard
it.
blacks, solid colors, etc. Right?
Every style has strengths and weakness, and you want to use that style's strength at the forefront. And that's what that artist is doing there.
So these are just examples to kind of show you, okay, these are people who are doing things that are outside the norm, you know, the standard industry stuff for card art, game art, whatever. But they're really developing it, and it's a high level of complexity and difficulty, right? So this is why I suggested Kidlit, because Kidlit tends to be a little bit more forgiving with the complexity because it's for children, right? And so that's okay. And it can be very cute and very charming and very narrative forward. And if that's something you are interested in, like, I don't know, you didn't give us that much information, then you would need to explore that in the direction of narrative. Maybe you don't want to render stuff. Maybe you don't want to do ink drawings or ink lines. Okay, develop your narrative.
Yep.
Right? We're not getting a ton of narrative in any of the images except for this one. So maybe that's an area that you can deliver on, you can develop. But I really think for you, most helpful thing would be go to a Barnes & Noble, walk around and see what's out there and see what you would enjoy doing. Children's book, interiors, covers, you know, could be comics. I don't know, you know, where your interests lie, but when you're making a portfolio, it's like what we said to a couple of other people, you really have to have a target in mind. Otherwise, you're just kind of shooting blind in any which way.
Okay. That's fairly broad, but the feedback generally has to be broad when we don't have a specific goal we're trying to aim you towards. So, Michael, we wish you the best, and as we say to everyone, like, you can resubmit your portfolio. I think you wrote in the rules how often. Is it once a year?
No, it's just when you have new work. So
Okay.
we don't review the same pieces again. So if you've made like 6 new pieces, a new portfolio,
Yeah.
and you want to review, that's totally fine.
Okay. Next up is Casamondo.
I hope we're not saying
If
that
I'm saying
wrong.
that right.
Yeah.
Got a question. Maybe we'll take a look at the question before we answer. Hey, Clint and Diana, to pursue a career as a 2D concept artist, should I focus on creating both characters and environments, showing my process and sketches along with a polished finished piece? And for environment, should I also include 3D blockouts in addition to 2D work? I ask because I notice many job postings on LinkedIn seem to expect this.
Yes. Well, okay, just to answer your question, if you should do characters and environments, only if they're at the same level of quality. Because if one is a lot better quality than the other, you're just going to make the lower quality one look really, really bad, and it'll drag down your higher quality one. So if they're both at the same level, great, do them both. More is better. But if your characters are a lot better than your environments, just drop the environments, or the other way around.
If you've not really committed a lot of time to either, then just pick one. It's going to be faster to do one or the other, and a lot of times companies are looking for someone to do one or the other. Big companies will have like character concept artists and environment concept artist. A smaller company might want to try to get somebody who can sort of do both in order to not hire as many people.
It is kind of assumed, though, that whether you do environments or characters, you will know how to do props. That's just assumed. Yeah. Another thing about environment concept art that I became aware of some years ago, and I was told from an AD at, I don't know if it was EA or where, but that at the major studios, for an environment concept artist, it is assumed that you will know 3D. Yes. A lot of the environment concept art is not hand-drawn anymore. It's done in 3D, and it's just assumed, and you will be competing for those jobs with guys, girls that know 3D. So the 3D blockouts are expected, and it's expected that you know 3D pretty well, that you can concept in Blender. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, you'll probably do your first rounds of sketches, hashing out the general looks of things 2D, but then you're going to be doing 3D or even sketching over 3D. Yeah. Okay.
So Zachary is this person.
This is Zachary. Hey, Zachary. I'm glad to have you here live with us. Going to take a look at your comment first. I want to thank you for your videos. Well, thank you for watching the videos.
Found us through Adam Duff.
Also, sorry about the late submission. Wasn't late. We just get them when we get them. This is a piece about 4.5 hours into. I like it, though the values are too washed out. How would you recommend moving it forwards, primarily in terms of how you would structure them, as well as any tips on how to increase the contrast without obliterating the subtleties in structure that is already there? I am expecting to have a paint over all the foreground stuff, cool with whatever work is needed. Okay, I'd love to hear additional feedback. Okay, so let me pull this into Photoshop. So a couple of levels of notes for you, Zachary. And I want to talk about this piece, about how to improve this piece, how you're approaching the painting process, illustration process. But I also want to actually look at your gallery as well, because some of the issues that you're facing in this particular piece are just indicative of reoccurring issues throughout your pieces. So if we can sort of look at the batch as well, we're going to see how that carries out through other things. Okay, so yeah, it makes perfect sense doing environment stuff. I'm certainly more focused on characters and creatures. Most of it generally with a bit of home didn't finish writing it up. Okay.
That's all right. Okay, so let's take a look at this piece.
With this one, right now it is what I consider still being in the kind of the block-in phase. We've got enough that we kind of know where things are. We've got some values in there. We got a little detailing going on in the character, but not too many other places. The main thing right now, by far, is what is this scene about? I don't know what it's about. As a viewer, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know the context. I've got a building that has some white lines coming out of it. And I don't know if this is an explosion. I'm assuming that this is light. Now here it looks like there's supposed to be cracks. This is an issue because stone buildings like this don't crack in this manner. That's not how they crack. I'm assuming that this is light and not like icicles or something, you know, in which case that's also an issue because light doesn't narrow as it goes out. It would expand as it goes out. So there's several things like that, and I don't really know what this is.
Some kind of tree?
Is it a tree? I don't know. Yeah, it's just unclear, so it's difficult to give you too much feedback on it because I don't know the context of what's trying to be conveyed.
This happens a lot when people ask us for feedback on scenes, but we don't know the brief and we don't know what the scene is about, so it's hard to say do this or do that to communicate what the scene is about when we don't know. So if you could tell us what the scene is about fast enough for us to read it while we're doing this, that would be great. The only other thing we can do is just talk about technical stuff in broad strokes, but we don't know exactly what the purpose is, the intention or the narrative is, so we're just kind of flying blind.
Okay, as far as the technical stuff, if I'm working on the assumption that there's this castle-y fortress location and for some reason there's a magical bright light in it that's emanating out for I don't know what reason, I don't care. But how can we do this more effectively if that's the only premise that we're working on? Well, currently we have a very static image, okay? And that is because everything is sort of in plumb lines and islands. Everything is straight up and down to our view. It's completely horizontal. If we looked at a top view of this scene, it would be like camera is here looking, the wall's just 90 degrees to our viewing angle, right? This wall's like 90 degrees to our viewing angle. The wall back there is 90 degrees. So there's nothing that's really going forwards or back. We're not getting a wall that's angled like this and this, which is more dynamic. It kind of leads you in, right? So that's one thing that is counter to the sense of like magic and emanating light, and I have a feeling it's supposed to be more powerful, but everything's very static. Now, as far as islands, this has to do with there being very little overlap. We talk about this in the fantasy illustration course. If people want to know more about it, we'll touch on it very briefly, which is you want overlap because overlap establishes a sense of depth.
Mm-hmm.
And she overlaps nothing overlaps her. This tree pretty much overlaps nothing except for this little thing down here, and nothing really overlaps it. This overlaps, I guess, this building back here, but it's all kind of the same value, so we're not getting much. And we're getting maybe a little overlapping here, but not enough that it's given us a sense of depth. Oh, your original sketch actually was a little stronger compositionally.
I'm reading Zachary's comment here in the chat, and he said this piece was intended to be for a prompt, enter the dungeon. Okay, the prompt was enter the dungeon. But then he says, I wanted to do these almost amorphous ink-like forms of humanoids that are bringing little trinkets into the light. Okay, that's a whole other thing than enter the dungeon. Enter the dungeon is entering a scary place.
Yeah.
It's a scary, foreboding scene. You're doing something else that's kind of surrealism. You have humanoids that are bringing trinkets into the light. Yeah, I see that here. That's happening in this. This is...
Well, those aren't the same scenes.
These are not the same. This is not the same thing. These are two different briefs.
And that's important because you would go about designing those scenes, lighting those scenes, posing very differently because they're trying to achieve very different things. In the same way that you wouldn't shoot a comedy film the same way you would shoot a horror film, they're not trying to achieve the same tone or tell the same story.
Yeah, so right away, there's kind of a disconnect there. I'm not saying any of this is wrong, it's just, they're just different scenes, they're different briefs. Okay. If we're doing enter the dungeon, then we gotta make this look like a dungeon, not we're going into heaven here and we got this heavenly light. It's a dungeon or it's not. And this looks like this is the composition that you decided to pursue, right? It's already different from here to the one that you showed us. You made the figure a lot smaller. There's more overlap here.
Well, we're also lower. We were kind of seeing this from her viewpoint, which made us connect with her. What you've chosen to do with the finished version is you've grabbed a third-person view.
It's almost less imposing now.
You've pulled up away from the scene so that we have a bird's eye view of it, but also we're less emotionally connected to it because we're so removed.
And that bird's eye view is good when you have a battle scene or you have a lot of context that you need to show in frame. If you were going to hit a more emotional note, or you're trying to explain that brief, I would have had the camera closer to her and lower. I would have had this doorway, as your focal point, okay. But maybe there's like some scary things coming. There's a red glow or something coming out of this doorway that looks like, oh man, this is a bad place to go, instead of this kind of almost angelic light that's coming out of it. One thing that's holding you back here as well is you've made this doorway your focal point, but there's no design to it.
Yeah.
It's a feature of your image. There's nothing else, right? The character is very small. We need more design, more subdivisions. So it's what we talk about: big, medium, small, right? We're getting a lot of bigs and some smalls, but we don't have any medium subdivisions on any of these things.
Well, I'm going to do like a few sketch lines here.
Yeah, we're just
and
working
just
through like
brainstorm it.
the reasoning.
Well, let's be Zachary, right? Zachary, let's be clear. This isn't the answer because I don't know the full story. I'm just going to brainstorm as to showing you how to kind of mentally approach the task. So one of the first things we could do is drop the perspective. Let's spend 10 minutes and do trying to
Frankenstein this.
lower the perspective here. Okay, we just drop the camera down a bit there. Yeah, some of the new Photoshop have better background removal, but the new Photoshop also removed the pixel line tool, and nope, not giving up my pixel line tool.
I think I don't have mine now. I made that mistake and now I'm very sad.
Okay, so I almost feel like putting her over here because everything's kind of left balanced right now, and we could have her. There's no reason that she can't be closer to camera, being like over here, like this. You could even have her like here, but we'll make her feel a little small and put her down, something like that. And then you can have the light hitting side of her, right? Okay. And then we can start introducing as well some. At this point, I'm not going to be able to paint. I don't have enough time to paint, so I'll just draw some lines. Introducing some perspective where we're looking up at this. We got this tower coming up there. And we're going to have this sort of feeling. We want this dangerous, right? This is a dungeon. Okay. Sharp shapes. Pointy things are dangerous. Round things, flat things are safe. Right? So maybe this is an orc dungeon. Maybe those giant metal spikes that have been added on the top of this. Everything is spiky. Everything can impale you. Okay, it's broken. Fine, do that. Again, back here we want to see maybe like wooden scaffolding up to pointy turrets back here, and all along the side of the building there's all these pointy things to stop people from climbing up. Okay, if there's a tree here, it's this gnarly tree, right? Maybe there's metal bands tied around it. There's chains hanging off of it, right? Maybe there's a skeleton hanging off of it, right? We get more morbid. Okay, and we've got that, and then we've got like some sort of tree or vine or something. That's fine. We can have some big, gnarly, spiky vines climbing along this place, working their way around this thing. All right, fine. We've got some twisting around here in the foreground. Maybe we have a big one right here by a camera that helps create another layer, right, kind of leading into the scene. We've got some other foreground rocks and stuff. Maybe we've got some skeletons. We've got some rib cage and got a little skeleton here. people have died here again, and we're telling them like, how do you know this place is dangerous, right? And can we change up the shape of this so that it has some sort of more dynamic form, and maybe it has spikes almost like it's a mouth coming in, right? So this sort of thing says, oh, this is a dungeon. This is a scary place.
It's a bad place.
This is dangerous. And now we're doing several things. We're establishing a really close foreground thing with some spiky vines. We've got her on another plane. We might even introduce like a broken wall or something to introduce another plane that's in between like her and the doorway. And then the doorway, and I agree, like most of the doorway, this is a dungeon. It's not a good place, it's a bad place. So it's more dark. And I like the idea that you said, which is like there's some sort of red light, right, kind of glowing inside of there. Right? So this is just one way of brainstorming it, but this is a sort of approach that you'd use for a scene like this. I'm going to look at a couple of other scenes that had similar things. So if we're just talking about capturing that foggy, moody sort of vibe I think you were kind of going for, this scene had a nice approach. Again,
some really gnarly trees.
Yeah, trees are great.
A swampy foreground. That's nice.
Notice that when you're getting that sort of feeling, if you're trying to get that atmospheric sort of feeling, the darks are much darker in the foreground. Then everything gets to a lighter value range, not white, lighter. It's a higher value range. It averages to the basically sky color.
This is still a lot darker than that.
Yep. Okay, Julian did this one.
Oh, nice.
Again, a moody scene. You notice how we're using the perspective, exactly what we just did on that drawing. Using the perspective to make them feel little. And this is the same sort of approach. There's a doorway. You have a character in the foreground. You have the big walls and stuff. But notice what they did different. What do they do different? They put them at an axis. They're not flat to camera. Everything is at an angle. Or they're curved. And this all points you in to
that dark spot.
That doorway. Right? So that's excellent. So those are the sorts of things. Even though this isn't the same scene, there's still things to pick up from
that's
this.
a good point. Zachary says there are 1,000 ways to do it. Intention is the key. Yeah, the intention is everything. It's what is the story you're trying to tell. Try to be a little bit more specific so that you have more to work with. So this one is all about just a vibe. There's not that much specificity here. This is all about the values. So you could do something like this, but again, there's more here. Like we have the spiky, dangerous shapes of the castle and whatever this, some kind of fence.
Yeah, some sort of fence there.
That gives you, it's these, what we talk about in a couple of our courses, which is giving the audience the visual marker to tell them what's going on. And there's not that much here. All we have is that big moon. It's a night scene, okay? It's a moonlit night. It's ominous. It's kind of a barren place, right? There's nothing but rocks. Okay, we got fog, and we've got spiky shapes. So there's enough there to go on. It's not very specific for a game or a card art. You'd probably need more information than this, but for a mood piece, this is enough.
Yeah. Okay. Let's also briefly look at this, and we'll have to move on. So this is another case where looking at the collection of work, we are getting really far removed in almost all of these from anything referenceable, which is going to hold you back from being able to do the imaginative stuff better. So the more that you learn how things look correct and know how to do them correct, you will be able to improve the realism of your fictional things. But what a lot of artists do is they skip a lot of the real world training and they immediately jump to imaginative stuff, then their ability stalls out and they're not getting better. So I would recommend not trying to go so strange that you're no longer really improving by doing the piece. If you can find some way, don't think about creating something new. Think about adapting something. How can I get something that already exists and then give it a spin? And that way you have something to work from, but you're putting it in a new context.
I think Zachary has a lot of potential. He's got some good intuition for aesthetics. There's some cool stuff happening here. I feel like you also need to think about where you want to go, who you want to work for, what kind of content specifically you want to make, and really focus, like dialing in on that direction. But yeah, thanks for sharing your work.
Yeah. Okay, the
next
last one is Wilson.
Hey Wilson, I don't know if you're here. Sorry this has gone so long.
Wilson says, it's been a while. I have focused my work more into horror concept and illustration for video games, board games and such. I know I need to do more scenes. You don't have to, but there's probably more work available if you do.
That's what we've noticed.
I want to see what you guys can tell me. I'm currently unemployed as I quit my job due to harmful work environment. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you can get a job, that's probably good, because it takes a while to build up enough clients, even if you're skilled, even if you're well known, in order to support yourself. So if you can at least get a part-time job, that's probably going to be better, not knowing your full situation. I did work for Lego Fortnite some time back, and since I want to focus on concept and illustration, I don't know if I should include that piece. I still think they're important to show experience. Well, you put in your portfolio the things that you want to do. If you don't want to do more Lego Fortnite related things, then yeah, I would leave that off. And that's just the case. People will hire you for what they see. If they see that, they'll be likely to hire you for it. Okay, let's take a look at the page. All right, nice clean page. All right, going down. Okay, that's back here. Okay.
I don't think that's a problem.
Looking at the broad view, potentially you want to hire Wilson to do some work for you. You see his portfolio. What are you seeing? What's the greens and the reds here?
Okay, well, my first glance is, okay, good presentation, got an ArtStation page, standard, that's good. I'm always going to look at the first two rows first. Like, if I don't see enough to convince me to hire someone in the first two rows, I'm not going to go look at older things, right? Yeah. And that's true for most recruiters, most ADs. So looking at the first two rows, there are a couple of things that stand out to me, which is quality inconsistencies and kind of subject inconsistencies. So first is, okay, these projects here look more consistent with each other than these three things here. This looks like something else. So here we're getting just a drawing. Here we're getting a ZBrush sculpt concept, and here, I don't know what this is. I'm not sure. I'm going to click on it.
Sort of a character design with illustration?
So this was for, oh, I know Bobby. This is for Bobby's challenge. Okay. Yeah, this is not at the level of like something like this. Okay. So these three things are doing one thing, and all these things are saying something else. The second thing in terms of the quality is there are some things here that are just at a higher level. For example, your weapons really look good.
Yeah, for weapon design, some of the things, go ahead and click on that. For just people, if you're doing weapon design, what's the major things? You're showcasing the design. I don't care to see fancy lights and shadows and backgrounds. I just need to know, what's this thing look like? If it has articulating things
That
like
is cool.
this thing opens up.
These kind
Good.
of come out.
Clarifying that. I'm getting good textural information in here. I feel like somebody could reasonably make a 3D model based on this,
Yeah, and
which
it
is
would
what
look-
it would be used
It
for.
would look cool. This is cool. I like this. A shovel with a magic effect. That's nice.
Mhm.
Right? So these look really good. And the thing that also looks higher quality is this vehicle. Everything else is kind of a step down from these two. These are like really good. This one is probably the next one in line. And then this character is probably the best of the three. These characters are a little bit in terms of the posing is a bit weird. The render is a bit questionable. But it's more noticeable because these are so good. See, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And if I was you, what I would really push to do is make sure your top two rows all look as good as these things are at this level of your weapons and the truck, because those are like the nicest right now.
That also brings us to the issue of the focus. And you're doing illustration and creature design and concept art and visual development. Again, I feel like you may be splitting your time in so many directions that you're not getting a lot of traction in any particular direction because it's being spread too thin multiple ways. If you had an entire portfolio of just this, I would think that you would have a fair chance of getting more work designing weapons and props. If you had a full portfolio of vehicles,
Yeah.
and you showed that you can do a whole different load of vehicles from a Mars rover thing to like this, an old ice cream truck or whatever, then yeah, you could probably find work. But it's that we're getting some creature pencil sketches, some kind of illustrative abstract characters, weapon designs, character illustrations, creature illustrations, environment concepts. The most likely candidate I could see that this being appealing to would be a little studio, an indie mobile game potentially sort of studio,
Or maybe like
that wants an all-around concept artist.
possibly like third-party tabletop gaming that does more horror or cyberpunk or something like that.
Something else that you could consider, Wilson, is trying to get with a what's the right term? An outsourcing studio that has loads of artists on their roster, and then they sub it out to anyone who has a specialty in that thing. There's less people, I think, that have really good horror-related skills. So if you wanted to like really kind of what we consider niche max, then it would be really good at that. But you would need to be in contact with a lot of people.
And you really need to commit to that.
Yeah.
And my concern, my worry for you about that is it looks like you were kind of already doing some of that. This kind of borderline horror stuff. And it wasn't getting you that much work. So that's what concerns me about, that's always what concerns me about the horror thing. And Bobby can tell you this himself, because he knows, being a sort of horror creature guy, that there isn't that much work for that area. So, it's something you need to think about. If you've already been pursuing horror, I don't know how it's going, if you're getting a ton of interest in your horror stuff or not. You kind of have to gauge what is getting you more interest, is getting you more clicks, more views, what are people most interested in, and you may have to lean in that direction to get more work.
Okay, when you scale up the complexity and it starts getting into lighting, that's where things are getting weaker. That's where we're starting to get some odd shading choices. Shadows are starting to get kind of murky and black. Some of the forms aren't shaded correctly. And there's the guessing of how things would be lit is getting off a bit. Yeah, same thing here. Yeah, we're just getting really odd kind of lighting patterns on that. If you can do rough 3D mock-ups of your stuff and then paint over those and let the 3D figure out what the shadow patterns are, you could level up these projects considerably fairly quickly. Now, I don't have 3D sculpting skills. That's just not something that I've ever learned. But that is a way to really step up your work.
It's an advantage.
It is an advantage. And that's not a skill to take lightly. And I would really recommend, if you have any interest in using that, like, because the lighting is something that's holding you back, the shading is holding it back, then let the 3D figure out most of that, and then use the painting to do all the minor stuff and adding the textures and giving the artistic flair to it.
You know what, Wilson? If I was you, I would think about maybe, if I don't know if you have any interest at all, but it's worth thinking about, that maybe a way to kind of take your interest in horror and take your interest in characters and your illustration is maybe making a few pieces that are a little bit more targeted to Games Workshop. Maybe, you know, it's because you have some gritty stuff, you have some painterly stuff. Maybe making a few pieces. See if, I don't know if you have an interest in Warhammer, but it might be something worth exploring, and you might even find well-paying private clients who are willing to pay for Warhammer art, even if it's not official. It's just something I thought of looking at your stuff, that maybe Warhammer would be interesting to you or a good fit for you.
Now, this is what I'm talking about. You're already doing this, which is using a 3D mock-up with lighting to figure out how to set up this scene. That's great. Use that. And I'll tell you what, there's an increasing number of illustrators who are doing this a lot who don't publicly let it be known that that's their process. But a lot of people are doing that because most illustrators no longer hire models to come into the studio and set up lights and get costumes. And that's what they used to do, right? It's just cost prohibitive now to do it that way, so people are doing them in 3D. And this is an excellent result. I could see this being used in something. Yeah. Now, these other images, like some of these other ones feel, I would recommend taking out some of this older stuff. I actually think some of the newer stuff is definitely better. And this is showing that you can tackle a big scene, but it's not landing. This is showing that you don't understand how to do a value scheme for a scene of this complexity.
There's a lot of components here. It's a hard thing to do. But I also think you've just gotten better since these.
And if you're not wanting to work in these subjects and styles anymore, just take them off. And that's fine. Everyone's portfolio is a work in progress. As you progress, as you do more things that are closer to your current style and subjects that you want to work in, you just sub out the old stuff.
Yeah, you've got skills, Wilson. I think it's more for you, it's just a matter of commitment, where I still feel like you're not really sure where you want to go all in, so you're still kind of dividing yourself in different things. But that's the main thing you have to think about.
One last tip and encouragement for other people. Wilson is working in a couple of projects. So he's got like the Roaring Manor, and these are in that. Excellent. Keep going with that. Projects like that work really well instead of just one-off concepts and one-off illustrations. So if you guys are trying to get an idea, then come up with a theme. It doesn't have to be involved. It doesn't have to be crazy. If you don't even want to come up with an idea, just pick up the kit on Swatches Academy, the Career and Portfolio Kit. And it's got literally hundreds of briefs based in different projects, and just pick the one that interests you and just draw.
You can change
that.
the names of them.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
If you don't want to use those names. Okay, so I think that's all we've got for
That's
today. Are
everybody.
there any questions from the chat before we let everyone go? We've been here for 2 hours. Appreciate everyone that's been watching the whole thing. Hopefully there's still someone here and we're not talking to no one.
Yeah, we got, I think there's 19 people here currently.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, we'll spend a couple of extra minutes if people do have questions. Just move it back to the announcements page because people want to see that.
Well, thanks for the review.
You're welcome.
You are welcome. Well, I guess there's no other comments. It's super helpful. Oh, that's good to hear. We appreciate that. Trying to help, right?
We're trying to.
That's literally like that's all we do almost all the time. Trying to help other artists. Well. Oh, you arrived too late.
Jose.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
it'll be up on the live section of the YouTube channel.
Oh, I had turned off some of the last episodes, but those are turned on now. So if you're wanting to catch up on, if there was like
All the portfolio reviews.
5 or 10 of them that I had turned off.
If you missed some, you can go back and watch
Yeah,
those.
you can catch up on those.
Want to hear us
Yeah.
go on at length about portfolios. All right. Well, I guess are we doing another one next week? I don't know if we're doing.
I don't know. I need to take a look to see how many there are. If there's an adequate number, then we probably will. I think there's at least 5 more, but I'll double check and we'll make an announcement on the Discord if there's going to be another one.
Oh, there is one thing. I guess I just want to mention to anyone watching, if they're interested, that WotC, Wizards of the Coast, has reopened their art submission page. I posted it in this month's newsletter. If you got our newsletter and you haven't opened the email yet, if you go in there, all the links we posted, I looked for a bunch of job postings and I put them all in there with links. So if you're interested in any of those jobs, if you're looking for a job, maybe go check out the newsletter. I'm going to try to do that on every newsletter to help people out that are looking for jobs. So yeah, if you want to apply to Wizards, just Google Wizards of the Coast art submissions and you should get directed to the page. It's open until October 3rd, so they don't have it open constantly now. Like they just open specific windows of time. So if you want to apply, do that before October 3rd or they're going to cut it off and then I don't know when they're going to open it again. I know that the last time they closed it, they were closed for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they were.
if you want to do that, take advantage of this and don't wait too long. And there are other jobs for 2D artists as well in there that you may or may not be interested in. So check that out if you are looking for a job.
Okay, I got a couple of comments. So, would using 3D to create props or weapons for character concepts be considered a plus if I want to pursue a career as a 2D character artist? Having 3D ability to model for props and stuff, it's always a plus. You're never going to be like,
Doesn't
gosh,
hurt.
I wish I didn't know how to do 3D. But honestly, for 2D character artists doing just the props that they're carrying, that's going to be a really minor thing.
It's just a good skill to have, but I'd say if you're a really strong 2D artist, you don't need to.
Yeah.
But I do know of some character artists, a couple here and there, that do use a 3D base on their characters. So I don't think you need it to get a job, but if you have those skills or you're interested in it, you like doing 3D, then that would be a good thing to develop for sure.
A lot of things for character design don't warrant the extra time that it would take to model it in 3D. So if you have the ability for certain complex things, I'm thinking of things that have probably mirrored curved surfaces, right? That sort of thing is really hard to draw.
Like horns.
Right, yeah, like twisty horns going back.
You might want to get a 3D doll for that.
So if you have the ability to do that when needed, but I wouldn't try to be working that into the process unless it's really warranted. Otherwise, 2D is probably fine for most character stuff.
If I'm aiming to work with indies, should I just aim to be a generalist instead of specializing?
If you're trying to work with an indie studio, yeah, they're trying to hire somebody that can do as many things as possible, wear as many hats as possible, where the studios have more money and they want the highest quality possible, which means usually hiring more specialists, somebody who's really good at each individual thing. So if you can do 2D and 3D, and you can do the major things like character design, environment design, props, creatures, and you don't have to be equally good at everything, but if you're passable at each of those, like
nowadays you do. We just need to be honest.
Yeah.
It's because of the competition. It's not because the AG has like impossible standards for you, right? It's because of the other people that are also applying for the job. And you just have to assume, a lot of people just assume, they want to believe that there's no one applying for that job that's good at all those things.
Yeah,
but there's usually at least one. So you have to kind of assume that. So it doesn't mean you have to be good at everything. It just means that everything you put in your portfolio has to be at the highest level of quality that you can deliver across all subjects. So if, like I said before, if your characters and your props are really good, but your environments are not so good in comparison, it's better to leave them out because they're just going to drag everything down. And then maybe if someone really likes if your characters and your props are really high quality, and maybe someone else is competing with you for the job and they have environments, they have props and characters, but none of their stuff is as nice as the things that you've specialized in, you may still squeak by. So it's a strategic thing, if that makes sense.
And all this stuff is case by case basis. Right? We can tell the average if given a chance, this is probably more likely to work, but it also differs a little bit depending on the projects and stuff. So.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with the project.
Always remember, guys, that quality wins out. Even if the company's like, oh, we need 3 years of industry experience. Yeah, but if you show up with just a killer portfolio, nope, killer portfolio wins.
Well, we were talking about this the other day. They do that. They say, oh, you need 3 years of experience. You must have shipped one AAA type. They say this because they're trying to filter out all the people that really shouldn't be applying, that don't have a viable portfolio, don't have the skills. They're trying to filter all those people out. But what they end up doing is those people were never going to be filtered out anyway. Like, they don't listen to the criteria. So those people apply anyway. And generally the only people that filter themselves out are the people that are like, oh, well, I don't have 3 years of experience, and they might actually have good art. Yeah. So that's why we always tell people, like, don't worry about that. It doesn't matter how many years of experience you have. All that matters is your portfolio. If your portfolio is hitting that level, if it looks like their stuff, looks like the stuff that they have, just apply anyway.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I saw there. And we've been going long enough. 2 hours. I think everybody probably wants to go away, get some food anyway. So thank you so much for watching the stream. Keep your eyes on the channel and the Discord, and we will let you know when the next one is. We almost always have it on Thursdays at this same time, so check back with that. And of course, feel free, if you haven't yet submitted your portfolio, they are free to do. And just go to swatchesdiscord.com. Go through the entry process that you need to do for a new Discord channel. And then go to the video critique submission room, drop it in there, and we would be happy to take a look at it and give you our thoughts. So, We wish you guys the best, and we'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody. Okay.
Man, we've done 8